Gentlemen, thank you for taking time out of your busy campaign schedule to meet with us this afternoon. I guarantee all three of you, I recognize all of you from previous, in addition to professional interactions, from previous interviewing sessions. Again, for those watching on the internet, I'm John Paris. I'm the chair of our endorsement committee. On my furthest left is Andrew Martin, who is running for state controller. In the middle, we have Judge Jerry Wiese, who is the presiding judge in Department 30, correct?
Correct.
Jerry? Running for re-election. And then all the way on the right-hand side, we have Dan Schwartz, who is running for state treasurer, correct? Okay. We do have three different races going on here, but we are trying to accommodate everybody's schedule as best as possible. So the first question that we have that each of you can answer individually, and we'll start with Andrew, is this. Why have you decided to run for this particular race at this particular time?
Well, thank you first of all for having me in. Appreciate being here. Well, I'm leaving the legislature to pursue the state controller job, mainly because I am a CPA, certified fraud examiner, and the seat is open, so the opportunity is a good one at this time. And opportunities like this do not come along very well. I want to put together my career's worth of CPA skills and financial skills and work for everybody in the state.
Okay. Jerry.
Why am I running? I've been a judge for the last 4 years. I enjoy my job. I feel like I'm making a difference in the community. That's why I ran. I feel like I'm a fair judge. I feel like I'm doing a good job working hard, and probably the best thing that I like about my job is going to schools and making a difference with kids so that we keep them out of the criminal justice system. As long as they're making good choices early on, keep them out of the courts, and hopefully they don't have to see people like me as they grow up and they don't get in trouble.
Okay. And before we go to Dan, I need to state this. I have one case that's currently pending in front of Department 30. Because of that, I'll still moderate the panel interviews, but to avoid the much vaunted appearance of impropriety, I won't participate in the actual endorsement process.
Okay.
Selection process, I should say, for purposes of the endorsement. I wanted you to know that, as well as I wanted your opponent, who's, I'll be honest, I cannot recall his or her name at this point in time, because all the candidates are blending together. But I just wanted to make that known for the much vaunted record.
Appreciate that.
So,
thanks, John.
Dan.
John, again, thanks to all of you for being here. I appreciate the opportunity. We certainly seek your endorsement. My reasons for running are several. I've had a successful career. I've had a good family life. I enjoy living in Las Vegas. It's time to give something back. But more relevant to your question, I have 35 years of financial experience in the banking industry, the securities industry. I understand investment. I've also been an entrepreneur. I've been the CEO of several companies, one of which is in Hong Kong, the Asian Venture Capital Journal. And specifically, the Treasurer's Office is in dire straits. We have a treasurer now, who you were just speaking to, who invests the general fund. She invests it at a loss, and an independent financial consultant actually came to me and said that had the state invested its money at the same rate as Clark County, in other words, they're both government entities, there'd be another $210 million in the state treasury. Currently, it's being invested at a loss, about 45 basis points. Take away a point of inflation, some fees. We actually have $2 billion in the general fund, which is being invested at a -1%. The current state treasurer took $50 million from the Permanent Education Fund. What is that fund used for? It's used to collateralize bonds to construct classrooms. So we've said she's stolen the money. What has she done with it? She's put it into a private equity fund. She has no business doing that. She knows absolutely nothing about private equity. She thinks she's Henry Kravis or David Bonderman or David Rubenstein, true giants in the field. These people, private equity takes a minimum of $300, $400 million. The $50 million to me it's a boondoggle, and in fact that has proven to be the case. She is giving the money. the money's being spent on fees and expenses to the fund managers who are in Philadelphia, as it were. Finally, there's the Millennium Scholarship Fund, which I want to restore. Andrew and I were at the League of Women Voters this morning. Education, and the governor said it at his conference on Friday, this is paramount in this state. Okay, it's going to run out of money in 3 to 4 years. It needs to be restored. With the money that I can make, the additional money that I can make on the general fund, I want to shut down the private equity fund. This money will go to restoring the Millennium Scholarship Fund, and also I hope to create a microloan finance program to encourage small businessmen and entrepreneurs to create jobs. The long answer, short question.
Okay. We're going to have to dovetail to take into account the dissimilarities between your three races. Next question, we'll give it straight to Jerry. Jerry, as a sitting district court judge, you have an opportunity to see be exposed to a lot of different specialty courts. We have a veterans court, we have a mental health court, another diversionary drug court for other diversionary programs. Assuming you're reelected, what ideas do you have to try and establish either a different diversionary court or to perhaps bolster or supplement one of the existing diversionary courts, which seem to be very popular and very effective at their respective goals?
I may be the wrong person for that question because of the fact that all of those diversionary courts are primarily for criminal defendants, and I have an all-civil district court department. Because my docket is all civil, I really don't have any involvement in any of those specialty courts. Unless I have somebody, for example, that would come in and indicate that they have a difficult time in a civil division because of the fact that maybe they have PTSD because they're a veteran. In that case, I might be able to send them to the Veterans Court, but the Veterans Court and all these other diversionary courts and specialty courts are primarily designed for criminal defendants to get extra help, not civil litigants. I can tell you that one of the things that I do in the civil to make things go smoother anyway is I am the coordinator for the Judicial Settlement Conference program, where we try to settle each other's civil cases to try to alleviate the backlog in civil litigation, because we have cases that drag on for 3, 4, 5 years. We do try to help each other settle those cases, and when I took over that program about 3 years ago, I think we were probably averaging about 4 cases a week, and now we're probably doing 6 or 7 cases a week, which I think has helped the backlog and helped people try to resolve their cases sooner than later. That's one of the things that I've been able to do, but it doesn't really go to specialty courts, but it is kind of a specialty area that I'm involved in.
Yeah, perhaps extrajudicial might have been a better way to phrase that, but okay. Next question, we'll start with Dan and go to Andrew, because this is more pertinent to your respective areas. Obviously, you're going into 2 new offices. Neither one of you are currently in the positions for which you're running. From what you've been able to see from your respective offices, what are areas of improvement you need to implement, perhaps to streamline or just to overall to make more efficient your respective departments? And we'll start with Dan.
I'll keep this brief because I think I probably touched on it in my first answer. There are 4 responsibilities for the Treasurer's Office, all important. The 2 that are important but not as important are unclaimed property and issuing debt. The office right now isn't doing a particularly good job of unclaimed property. $635 million in assets, only $35 million returned to beneficiaries. Issuing debt is the council writes the prospectus, you get a rating, and you market it. But the 2 key issues are, as I said earlier, the State General Fund and Millennium Scholarship. State General Fund it's about $6.25 billion overall, but the amount that the Treasurer invests is close to $2 billion. As I've said earlier, I don't know what happened, probably for reasons best known to the current Treasurer. She just abdicated her responsibility, and it's being invested at a very low rate, and if you add in fees and expenses, it's a negative rate. I will at least double or triple that. It's not rocket science. It's not easy, but it can be done easily by creating pools of capital and by changing some of the maturities of the securities and by investing in different types of credits. All of them not risky, all of them investment grade. I want to shut down this private equity fund, as I said. I want to take that money and I want to create a micro loan finance program for entrepreneurs, small businessmen, and I want to take the other parts of it and restore the Millennium Scholarship Fund. And I think overall, as I say in some of my literature, I will be I'm a Republican, but I will be an independent voice in Carson City, and I will look out for the Nevadans, not the special interests.
Okay. And Andrew.
Well, thank you. Well, as a current assemblyman, I've gotten a lot of ideas about how to improve the Office of State Controller, or maybe improve's not quite the word, but enhance. The current controller has done a phenomenal job handling the state's audit report, validating claims against the state, and managing the debt collections. Where I want to go with the office is that I'm also a certified fraud examiner on top of being a CPA. I have 8 professional licenses and certifications, which I'm not going to list them all, don't worry. And I'm also an investment advisor, so I tend to see things through those lenses. My main goal is that I want to enhance the reporting so we can make better decisions. The way we're going to do that is linking dollars spent to performance goals. Case in point, a lot of discussion about education. Although I'm sure you might ask this question anyway, but I'm on record as being opposed to the gross receipts tax, known as the margins tax, or TEI, mainly because it's a very poor tax. I hope to give guidance to the legislature, the governor, and any other decision-making bodies and citizens and business groups such as yourself about what the proper way to actually tax is, if at all. We need to look in our tax code. Like you've heard a lot about the manufacturing abatements and incentives that have been passed by the legislature in special session last week. I was there, I voted in favor of this, but it gave me a really great idea. I said, why don't we tear apart the Nevada's tax code, see what's embedded in the tax code, and actually decide what incentives, abatements, rebates, etc. that we want to keep, sunset, or otherwise just get rid of. And we do everything piecemeal, is what I'm trying to say. Other goals that I have, I want to work on open.nv.gov, which is our state's platform for financial reporting. Right now, you can find the state's checkbook, the budget up there, but what's missing is the dollars spent to the performance. Getting back to education, I want to see an education trust fund created. This would be a standalone fund. The money couldn't be rated, and likewise, it would be held more accountable, and it would be much more transparent. And I want to put the results and the reporting activities online. And I can go on, but I think you get the basic idea that I'm trying to make government work for us and not the other way around. I'd like to see a consumer advisory council. Let's start with the Department of Motor Vehicles. Let's get some really good feedback. Let's post the results, linking dollars spent to performance. And that are some of my goals.
Jerry, again, this question's more pertinent for your particular race. Every 2 years, the RJ sends out its much vaunted judicial performance evaluation. For the record, I believe you scored an 80, according to my notes, last time, which is significantly above average. But what ideas do you have to make that process more transparent, or perhaps just more useful or helpful for the voters to determine how well of a job any particular judge is doing in relation to his or her peers?
If I had an idea to improve it, it would be simply to just get more people involved. I think we have tens of thousands of lawyers in Las Vegas, and I think the last time I was rated, it was only by 216 people. So we have a very small number of the lawyers that are actually participating. I think that instead of sending people an email and hoping that they answer it or that their secretary responds to it somehow, that we just need to get it in front of people a little bit more blatantly. Maybe have it available at the courthouse or some other way that we can increase the number of people that participate, because we have a very small number participating. And that's the biggest criticism I think I have with it. I think the questions that they have on it are very good to determine if somebody's fair, prejudiced in some way or another, things like that. I think those are very good questions to have on there to rate judges with. I just don't think there are enough people that participate in it.
Thank you. Next question I think would be for Dan. I'm from Chicago, and the whole state of Illinois is having some issues, shall we say, with their underfunded or unfunded pensions. It does not appear that Nevada is headed down the same path, or at least not at the same rate. But what ideas do you have, since it's now a topic of discussion for many states and municipalities, what ideas do you have to try and prevent such an occurrence from happening to our system here in Nevada?
I'm also from Illinois, from suburban Chicago. And what's going on in Illinois is actually, it's pretty embarrassing. This is the land of Lincoln, and we have a pension fund that is headed for extinction. To answer your question, the treasurer has no responsibility for PERS, which is the Public Employees Retirement System. One of the things I want to do is to see if the legislature will name the treasurer to that board. Okay, the board has actually done a very good job of investing. I think their last return was like 17.9%. My issues are more structural. I think that there's a mismatch between the number of beneficiaries and the number of people contributing to the fund. There's what's known, as you pointed out, the unfunded portion. And the unfunded portion is really a function of the way in which the fund is valued. And it's probably a little complicated to go into here, but that again is a reflection of what the assumed investment rate is on the fund. I've told people, and the question is they use 8%. If you compare it to a 17%, I think the year before PERS owned 12%, it's a very fair rate. But if you look at PERS over the last 10 years, it drops significantly, about 6.7 or 7%. And the way in which funds are valued is the higher the interest rate, the lower the unfunded liability. Okay, it's an inverse relationship. The lower the interest rate, the higher the unfunded liability. So the question is, I think the fund is in good shape now. There are some structural mismatches which I think the PERS board should address. I'm not going to change anything right away, but I would certainly like to be part of that process.
And this one is for Andrew. Our current collection rate on debts under the last controller increased from 11% to 28% is what I called from various websites. It's on the internet, so I know it's true. What ideas do you have to continue? I mean, 28% of the collection rate is still not the greatest. What ideas do you have to continue increasing that percentage of collections, assuming you are elected controller?
Well, it really helps that I worked as a debt collector in another life. I worked for an exterminating company calling people for their money when they didn't pay their bills. Likewise, the 463-page PDF that you're probably referring to that's online, listing all the debt of the state, I would probably sort it in terms of, obviously in size order and prioritize picking up the phone and saying, hey, this is the Nevada State Controller. Is there a problem with paying your bills? Step two would be that if they do not pay their bills, working cooperatively with the other officers, probably the Secretary of State and or the Attorney General, we would take away their rights to do business or hit them with penalties or otherwise actually enforce our tax policies. It's not fair to the people who do pay taxes. I own a small business, I think you do, and others in this room do, and we pay our taxes in varying forms, be it property or sales or whatever, and those rules need to be enforced and dealt with. I do want to focus in on since that is a primary responsibility of the Office of the Controller is to collect the debts. The debt collector, the total dollars involved versus the state budget are really not that overwhelming. I thought originally that, well, maybe we're talking $1 billion. We're probably talking more like 100 million. Still significant, still worth doing everything I'm saying. But when you're considering that in a biannum, the controller manages and reports on $20 billion, you have to keep it in perspective. But definitely I want to go after the debtors, and I think by working cooperatively with the other officers and coming up with penalties that have teeth, they're going to think fast before doing that. Plus, I have no problem getting on the phone and say, hey, I do it for my own business, you probably do it for yours. You owe the state money. When can we expect a check? But I will be enforcing it.
Regarding these two gentlemen, are there any questions from the dais? Because I know I've kind of bogarted everything so far.
We're done.
We good?
We're good.
No, just one question.
Okay.
Very quick one. When you said the fund is somewhat invested wrong, and what's the recourse that we have as people?
Let me interpret your question in the way that the recourse is going forward. As I said, again, the purpose of this session is to promote myself, not to criticize others.
Of course.
And I'm running against Kim Wallen, not the current treasurer, but Kim has said that she will continue the good work of Kate Marshall. Okay, in my opinion, Kate Marshall's work is anything but good. Again, my opinion, she should not be elected Secretary of State. I mean, why promote someone who's just done a very poor job? I mean, that is recourse. But the other recourse, the onus is on me to invest these funds properly. If you have some financial background, what I will do is I will set up pools which are tied to various maturities. So as you know, the longer the maturity, the higher the return, okay? And last year when I looked at the state portfolio, the current treasurer had something like 44% of her portfolio in paper that was 39 days or less. I mean, it's shameful. And the recourse is to elect a treasurer who understands finance.
Okay, so which means basically we don't have no recourse until it steps down.
You have no recourse, right?
Okay,
I mean,
all right. So which means that if we were to support and elect you and you didn't do as what you promised, same thing. Am I correct?
Same thing, except that you will have a return that Nevadans can appreciate. Okay, and as I say, my opponent is a controller and a good accountant. She counts the money.
Got it.
The treasurer invests. There's a huge difference between the two. So you can hold me accountable. I've said I will set a benchmark of 2%. I've said that publicly.
Thank you.
I don't know that I can obtain it, but I will certainly try.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gentlemen,
Appreciate it.